Well, hey guys, welcome to Hope Rescue Podcast. It's Kimberly and Tim Scott, and we are here on our third week of talking about teachability. I got to tell
I'm
you,
exhausted. I can't learn anymore.
you're exhausted. I'm feeling a little bit spanked. Let me tell you why.
Really?
Yeah, not by you, because that would be weird.
Keep moving. Let's
Keep
move
it
on.
moving
Move on
quickly.
right now.
But I was challenged by this series because I started thinking to myself, what have I learned that's new lately? Because we talked about this last week, how easy it is when you get to a certain stage in life where you're kind of cruising, right?
You are learning all the time.
I mean, what?
How great
Give
I
me
am.
an answer.
How great I am.
No, I mean, I think you have a love, a passion for learning. And I have a passion for fun and in things that, or if I, here's the thing, I love learning things if I can make it fun. So, I don't mind learning something. I just want the process of learning it to feel fun to me.
Yeah.
And if it's not fun, like anything about math, I just am not interested, but I know it's really important. But I was feeling challenged and a little bit like, convicted is a better word than spanked. That, let's see, when was the last time I really learned something new? I'm down to, I love trying new things. I love, going new places. I guess that's all kind of goes into the category of maybe learning new things. But as far as actually like intentionally, I'm going to sit down, the idea of sitting down and reading something to learn something new outside of scripture, because I do that every morning. I'm feeling challenged.
All right.
So that's confessions.
Well,
Kimberly's
thank you for listening to
confessions.
Hope Rescue
Kimberly's
Podcast. We'll see you
confessions.
next week. I think we just had a confession.
That's good. It's challenging for me. It's good.
That is good. Adaptability, teachability, changeability. Those are hard things. I had a very specific thing that I wanted in terms of our landscape.
Oh, we're back to the landscape this week.
And yes, people are tired of it. It's top of the mind for me. We're looking right at it right now. And I had this idea of I've always really liked tropical. Our house on the other side of town was very tropical.
Yeah.
We had,
Very San Diego.
Yeah, very San Diego, palm trees and all of that. And it was very, it was just great. It was beautiful. We live in a very Mediterranean home.
Well, yeah, it's a neighborhood of the same builder homes. We're close to each other, and they have a lot of arches. So there's influences of Spanish and Mediterranean influences. Yeah.
So it's Kimberly thought hey, we should really look at Mediterranean. And when she said that, I thought, one of the things that I am is impressionable.
Yes.
And
I'm not mad about that.
Yeah. My taste in furniture, let's just put it this way. When we got married, I had a house full of Mediterranean furniture, Tuscan furniture. None of it came to our house except one vase.
It was
True story.
And
I'm talking thousands of dollars worth of furniture.
Yeah, from the late 70s.
Yeah. We decided we'd get a new bed. We decided we'd get new furniture. Everything was new. And, that's the story of my life.
He's so sad about it.
No, I'm actually not. But it was I adapted to that. And I think
you had a teachability, like you had a teachable spirit.
I did.
An
I did have a
impressionable
teachable. And I
spirit.
love you, and I care
I
what
love
you think, and
decorating.
you're very good at decorating.
Thank you.
And so we kind of went modern in this house, I guess we would call it.
Yeah, it's a mix.
It's a mix. And anyway, so learning to be adaptable, learning to change, learning to or being willing to learn is going to result in teachability.
Yeah.
And that teachability is going to result in the most important thing, change in your behavior and your growth.
So you got to close that story because you started out with the landscaping.
Oh, yeah.
And
So,
the reason, now let me finish it because otherwise you'll take another 5 minutes.
Yeah, that's true. I'm a
We
long-winded.
changed the whole landscape theme to go more Mediterranean. And at first you were rubbing up against it. And then you saw enough visuals, at which you're fantastic at seeing yard design. And so I always trust him completely with his ideas. But I told him kind of the vision. I started sending him pictures of a vision. And now you just love it. So there you go.
I do.
Now,
Yeah, and we've got
Yeah.
plants that are much more, cypress, and we got our thing going.
Yeah,
anyway,
we'll keep you posted. Trust me, whether you want to know or not.
Yeah. So talking about teachability, just a few pointers, because this is our last episode on teachability. One of the things about teachability, 3 things. One is upskilling in corporate work. In any job, probably you have to be willing to upskill. What does that mean? The practice of acquiring new skills to enhance your existing skills to stay competitive in the job market. So for us, we're manufacturing for our business. We're a manufacturer, and as a manufacturer, we have to learn new things. We have to learn new technologies and new mechanisms for making things more automated, efficiency, etc. So we are constantly having to upskill. We hired a formulator who is a young guy. He comes in. He is such a teachable guy. It's really amazing because his area is kind of scientific, mixing formulas and so forth. A formulator is cooking up our products, and there are guidelines for that. It's developing and following a recipe. I've watched this guy upskill. We got another guy that is great at upskilling, our warehouse manager. It just is amazing to me. Now, what does that have to do with you if you don't work in that kind of an area? The same is true upskilling with working. You don't have a child. You have a brand new baby. We've got several of our families got new babies. Shara's 2 years in. Ronnie and Cassie are 5 years in. But Jesse and Savannah are just months in, and watching them. And we were talking about how they feel about that. And I won't embarrass by saying what Savannah said, but it was such a beautiful statement of what she feels about being a mother. And they are amazing parents.
They are.
They're upskilling.
Yeah.
You upskill when you get married. You don't just love each other and then it works. You have to upskill. You have to learn how to talk. You have to learn how to adjust. You have to learn how to compromise. You have to learn how to adapt and change.
Yeah, the teachability factor is huge in that. And what's beautiful is they've had siblings that have gone before them that they've actually been equipping themselves with their knowledge of things they've learned to do and not do. And so that's the key.
From each other.
They're learning from each other, right?
And they're learning from their mom a lot.
Oh, that's sweet, honey. Thanks. Number 2 would be feedback. That's really important. But sometimes when people give feedback, and you all know these people, they're so clumsy because they can create an environment of hostility, which we know can cause defensiveness. So you don't want to do that. Feedback is important for sure, and you want to remain teachable. But in giving feedback, said this last week, you want to deliver information in a way that it can bring about change and that the receiver can receive it without feeling defensive or like they have their guard up.
Well, let's think about this. If somebody tells you that you're doing something wrong and they say it in a beautiful way, your initial response may be defensiveness.
Sure, that would be human nature too.
But I've had to fire several people in the last year and a half, and I mean a lot of people, and lay people off. But some people fire, and some people, when I lay them off, I remember one guy, he says, I think he even told you this, I can't believe this guy is firing me, and yet I still love him. And it's because I reached his heart, and it was intentional. I thought, how do I reach his heart to let him know this is not personal. And it wasn't feedback on negativity. It was just simply, I had to make a change. Anyway, when you talk to somebody about something that they need to change in their life, that's a very
sensitive territory.
Sensitive, yeah, perfect. And that causes defensiveness.
Yeah.
But if you are a bull in a china shop, so to speak, you're going to create defensiveness even where there was no defensiveness.
Right.
So we're talking about teachability, but on both sides, the giver of new information really needs to be careful how they give that.
Yeah.
And
It's tender territory.
It is.
And if you are a leader giving that information, remain teachable in ways to be able to communicate
exactly.
Clearly, but with kindness and not making personal attacks. You know, a lot of people, they so connect what they do with who they are.
Yeah.
And you need to be able to separate and say, I recognize you as valuable. However, what you're doing is either ineffective or not what it could be, in those kind of ways. But somehow separate those so they don't feel like their value is gone because they don't have the expertise, their humanity.
Yeah, it's interesting that I have known a lot of people who are experts at communicating difficult things in love. Really experts at that.
We've had people speak to us like that.
I'm sitting next to one.
Oh, no.
It's a true story.
Sweet.
You are very good at that most of the time. Not always.
I was going to say.
But most of the time. So the next thing is this. The third thing is we need to learn to pivot.
Yes, good.
If you're teachable, you have to work on upskilling, feedback, and pivoting. A marked change in behavior is what pivoting is. Attitude or thinking. You may change the way you think about something. You may change the way you behave in a certain way. To change one's direction is really hard because we become committed to the things we've done. Politicians struggle with that. Business leaders struggle with that. Parents struggle with that. And sometimes you need to learn to adapt. Remember this, those of you who are parents, you don't treat all your children the same way. You have equal opportunity, but you don't have equal input because some children, if you just look at them with a stern look, they crush. Whereas some, you could look at them with a stern look and they're like, yeah, come on. I mean, I had a child. I don't know if you can see this. I'll do this with Kimberly's mic. Don't touch the mic. And they go, they put their finger right next to it. Then they look at you and go, what? And then they're not playing.
We have two grandsons that do that right now.
And then they'll just go like this and put it on there. I told you not to touch it. And that's over now. So whereas I've had other children where don't touch it. Okay.
Yeah.
And then they're on to something else. And that you need to learn to adapt the way you lead your children, the way you speak to your spouse, the way you talk to your friends. Every friend is not the same. Yeah. So yes, you need to adapt.
Yeah, that's good.
All right. So how about some scripture?
Here we go. Proverbs 25:11. This is so exciting to me because this is one of my favorite scriptures, and it was my mom's dad's favorite scripture. And my mom used to have a book on her table, a little devotional, and it was a book, and it was called Apples of Gold in Settings of Silver. That was the name. It was a poetry book. Anyway, it's Proverbs 25:11. It says, a word fitly spoken, in other words, in the right place, is like apples of gold in a setting of silver.
You know what that reminds me of? And I know that meaning is it's beautiful,
yes.
It's perfect combination. I don't like gold and silver together. And it reminds me of a gaudy design. Like I saw inside of the Trump Tower, his apartment. I'm like, oh, that's
a lot
terrible.
Going on there.
There's a lot going on.
Beauty is in the eye of the beholder.
Yeah,
but
sorry,
back in these days, that was considered something beautiful. And verse 12 says, like a gold ring or an ornament of gold is a wise reprover to a listening ear. It's a compliment to, like a gold earring on an ear is a beautiful compliment. So the setting of silver here is basically a good definition of complementary truth. So that's, your silver is what holds the apples of gold, and the precious gold is the value of a word of correction to a listener. So you've got this, beautiful gold apple sitting in complementary truth in the setting of silver. And that's what words fitly spoken is about. Timing. It's about the setting.
That's perfect.
It's about the mood of the that you're in. It's about the mood that the person you're speaking to is in. These are all the things to consider to have this perfect, beautiful picture come together of communication. You have to look at all the elements involved, consider them, make it timely, and in a way that, again, it can be received in the best possible way, instead of in a moment of anger or passion or, you're just, you're in your flesh, basically.
Yeah. I had a counselor that I went to about marriage in a previous marriage I may have been in.
What?
And he said, and I said, gosh, right in the midst of things are so intense and you want to say things. And he said, can I give you some advice? And I said, that's why I'm here. That's why I'm paying you.
I'm teachable.
Yeah. And he said, oftentimes in the heat of the moment, it's not the right time to speak to that. And then I said, yeah, but then I forget about it. When things are calm, I forget about it. And he said, good. It wasn't important enough to talk about.
Okay.
And he said, but if you remember it, look for a great opportunity, not like I'm going to take her on a date and then you spoil the date with bringing that up, but you take her on a date and maybe the next day when things are really good and it's calm and it's, you just say, hey, there's something I wanted to talk about. I'm sorry for my emotions in that moment that we were arguing or whatever, but how about we talk about this? And that's what you're talking about, like gold ring in an ornament of gold, the gold in a setting of silver, and I think that's so important. The timing, the attitude, the environment. You don't bring it up in front of other people. You don't bring it up at a time where it's heated.
Right.
So here's the word listener is really key in this. Like a gold ring or ornament of gold is a wise reprover to a listening ear. We are warned in Proverbs not to rebuke a fool because they will reject you. They will devour you. They will attack you. What you do is you reprove a listening ear. If you keep trying to reprove a fool, you're wasting your time. And I can tell you, and this may sound cold, but I would meet with couples and I would say to them after 2 or 3 times, I said, I've given you guys assignments to do and you haven't done them, and yet you keep coming in. And I'm going to be real honest with you. I'm going to say something really, it's going to be painful to hear. You're wasting my time and you're wasting your time because I'm giving you the best that I have to offer. Maybe you need to go to somebody else that you can respect more so that you'll apply what they're telling you. And, I've seen people go like, oh, well, great.
We can't just come here and vent.
Yeah. It's not
I'm not your paid therapist.
Yeah. It's not a rap session. I'm not just a conversationalist or somebody to dump a load of crap on. Your catharsis is part of the process,
right?
But my feedback is important. You need to be teachable, and
good.
Teachability needs application. So what are some of the barriers? We close our series on teachability with these barriers to teachability. There are 4 that we're going to share.
Immediately what comes to mind, number 1 would be fear, would be a barrier to teachability, because there's this, narrative in your head that if I try this and it doesn't work, and we fail, then what? What if I try this and it doesn't work? So fear would be a big barrier to teachability. And so I guess you would have to go into that, managing that fear, or recognizing that fear is also what keeps us from any kind of forward momentum.
Yeah.
So
I just recently was in a business meeting where dealing with a business that's in a turnaround environment. And basically, everybody in the room except one person was saying, well, two people were saying, it will never change. It can't change. You can't fix this. It's broken and it's irredeemable. And the leader of that organization said, no, we can change. And here's what we're implementing to make the change. Well, it's going to fail. Okay. Well, you're not in charge right now. So this is where I'm going to go with this. You know, it's interesting how much negative feedback you get on that's fear-based.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the first one, barrier to teachability, is fear. What's
the second
one?
would be ego, which I would say ego/pride, where it's I already know what I need to know. You know, we've talked about that in this series. Like, you know, that is the opposite of teachability. So if you feel afraid, if you feel like you already know, those are red flags.
Yeah.
That you're not leaning into being teachable. And
absolutely.
It's not fertile ground for growth.
Yeah, that's true. Number 3 is passion. Nothing will improve. We have tried everything. When you have the loss of passion and belief and hope,
That's
you know, if you lead a sales team, they have to believe in what they're selling. There are people that can sell anything. They don't care. You know, they say you can sell ice to Eskimos, but I don't even know if that's politically correct, but whatever. Indigenous, whatever. But anyway, when you lose passion, you lose because of discouragement, and it kills your teachability, because why would I learn anything new? Because I don't even care anymore.
Yeah.
Passion is a big deal. And then finally, and I mentioned this in passion, is belief. When you lose belief, this can really change. This can really grow. We can be successful. When you lose that belief, there's no reason to move forward. So if you're afraid, if your ego's too big, if your passion is too diminished, if your belief is gone, you're not going to be teachable. Teachability changes your growth trajectory. You become a better person. You have better impact on people around you, more positive impact.
Right.
That's what God has called us to do. We need to constantly be growing and developing. That takes teachability.
Yeah.
I hope this has been a good series for you. If you just listened to this one episode, there are 3 episodes on teachability. Invite a friend, go listen to it together, and listen to what we have to say about teachability, and then maybe develop some of your own ideas about teachability.
That's good.
Thank you so much for listening. We'll be back next week starting a new series. Can't wait to start with you. So we'll see you next time on Hope Rescue Podcast.
Bye, guys.